Have you ever wondered how the hysteria around witches began in America? The seeds were sown in the early 17th century, with the earliest recorded witch trial in Virginia in 1626, a time of deep unease and superstitious beliefs, where the unexplainable was often attributed to the supernatural. This fear wasn't limited to the unknown, it seeped into everyday life, casting a shadow of doubt and suspicion over neighbours, friends, even family. And it wasn't just women who felt the brunt of these accusations. Men and children alike were ensnared in this web of fear and paranoia. But it wasn't solely witches that were the cause of this terror. The supernatural world, as perceived back then, was teeming with all sorts of malevolent beings. Werewolves, for instance, were also believed to walk amongst the people, inciting fear and dread. So it wasn't just witches that caused fear, but werewolves and other supernatural beings were also part of this hysteria. Now, imagine the year 1692, the peak of the witch trials, a time of great fear and confusion. In the heart of Massachusetts, the town of Salem was gripped by a wave of mass hysteria, unlike anything it had ever seen. The infamous Salem witch trials had begun, a grim episode that would forever stain the pages of American history. This was a time when superstition held sway over reason, a time when whispers and rumours could turn neighbours against one another, and even the most innocuous actions could be seen as signs of witchcraft. The trials were a frenzied witch hunt, driven by false accusations, spectral evidence, and the chilling testimonies of supposed victims of witchcraft. But what was the role of religion in all this? The Puritan Church, with its strict interpretation of the Bible, played a significant part. The Church taught that the devil was real and active, preying on the weak and the wicked. This belief, coupled with the fear of the unknown, fueled the flames of the witch trials, making them all the more terrifying. It wasn't just women who were accused. Men too were suspected of witchcraft, and some even of being werewolves. Indeed, the trials were indiscriminate in their reach. Husbands, wives, sons, daughters, even the clergy, no one was safe. In this peak period, even the most respected citizens found themselves accused of witchcraft, proving that nobody was safe from the mass hysteria. What would happen when people started questioning the legitimacy of these witch trials? As the 17th century drew to a close, so did the fervour of the witch trials. The wheels of change began to turn, not with a roar, but with a murmur. A whisper of doubt here, a questioning glance there. The seeds of scepticism were sown amidst the populace. The scales began to tip as more and more people started questioning the validity of these trials. Were they truly unearthing witches, or were they merely scapegoating innocents? The trials didn't end overnight, mind you. It was a slow, gradual process, much like the changing of seasons. But change did come. The last trial was held in the early 18th century, marking the end of an era of fear and superstition. In the years that followed, a wave of remorse swept through the colonies. The Church, once a staunch supporter of these trials, issued public apologies. They admitted their mistake, acknowledging that fear and hysteria had clouded their judgment. The state wasn't far behind. They too issued apologies, exonerating the accused posthumously and restoring their good names. It was a belated justice, but justice nonetheless. As we moved further away from that dark period, we began to memorialise the victims. Markers were erected in their honour, reminding us of the lives lost to fear and ignorance. These memorials stand as silent sentinels, a testament to our past and a warning for our future. But the witch trials weren't just a blight in our history, they were a lesson. They taught us about the dangerous consequences of mass hysteria and fear. They showed us how suspicion can turn neighbour against neighbour, how fear can blind us to reason. The witch trials, a dark period in American history, remind us of the dangerous consequences of mass hysteria and fear. Let's remember them not just as a cautionary tale, but as a call to action, to question, to reason, and to stand against fear and ignorance wherever we may find it. So, what have we learned from delving into the history of the American witch trials? We've journeyed through their mysterious origins, the peak of hysteria, and the sobering aftermath. But here's a lesser-known fact. Not only women, but men and even children were accused, some branded as werewolves. The trials were not mere witch hunts, but a manifestation of deep-seated fears and societal pressures. Indeed, the witch trials were a complex mix of fear, superstition, and societal pressures. A story that continues to fascinate us centuries later. This documentary used an AI-generated voice for your entertainment. All facts were researched by the creator. Thank you for watching.